live because we saw that there are some people already in the session, and Farid, our speaker, was already here, and we thought, why not start with some chit chat at the beginning? So what I'll do, and bear with me here, I will bring someone at random and invite them to the stage. You can refuse this invite, so don't worry. But let me invite someone to the stage.
Already picked someone?
I already picked someone. Let's see if they see the pop-up telling them. I'm waiting for a response for a few more seconds.
Really amazing sessions so far, by the way.
It's
too sad I can't follow all because I have to join another great session here.
Okay, so the person I picked as first didn't respond, so I'll pick someone else. Let's say another person. Oh.
We can also ask people why they
raise
are
their
interested.
hands.
So yeah, if you are in the session, just raise your hands. At the bottom of this of the images that you see, where you see us, there's a hand, and if you raise your hand, then we'll know that you are ready to be brought on stage.
And in the meantime, Farid, you had some idea what we can talk about. Wow.
Yeah, it will be great to understand why people are interested in DesignOps or ResearchOps or any other ops.
So type it into the chat.
Type it in the chat, raise your hands, come on stage, whatever you prefer.
This is chance to shine, so excited. Good morning. Maybe I'll, Shashank wrote, she's excited, she's just joined. So let me see if I can actually grab her and bring on the stage, because we don't have any. Shashank. I'm inviting Shashank.
To not get too quiet in the meantime, why I am interested in DesignOps and why I'm here on this session is because it's really important to design on scale. So
very good. So we actually have Shashank joining. Hey Shashank, can you hear us, see us?
Hello everybody. So sir, this is my first time. I'm from basically in India. So I'm currently learning about the product designing. So yeah.
Very good, very good. Anything that specifically speaks to you in the ops, so operationalizing of design or product research?
Could you repeat again? Actually,
yes. So, like, is there any special interest that you have specifically in design ops or product ops?
Basically, sir, design ops.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So Farid will talk us about that. Farid, do you have any sort of quick intro? Like, we were not officially started yet, but
basically, I'm from technical background, computer science. But in my university, I found that I have more interest in psychology and basically the user interaction. So I start learning about the product designing and basically user experience design. Currently, I'm learning from the Google UX course and working on my case studies. So yeah, this is my little intro.
Very good. And there's a lot of sessions on this as well. So if you'll go back to schedule after this talk, then you'll find a number of things that are interesting to this. For someone who's sort of early in their UX discovery, what would you think is most important around design ops?
So I think.
Sorry, Shashank. I meant Farid.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think the first thing to think about is to start standardizing the way you work personally. Mm-hmm. Like if you are doing like discovery session or any research or analysis of specific product, or you're doing prototyping, try to standardize the way how you work and create checklists. That will help you to, again, see some interesting patterns, see some interesting things, how you will be able to not only help yourself to, when you will do the same thing, for example, to find all these things that are important for this specific process, but also if you will share that with your team members, they will be able to see what kind of things are important, like in design, etc. So just starting by small checklist on your side, the way how you work, the way how you see the process, what was working right, and what kind of things you would like to change or improve. That's the first suggestion that I will share.
I think that's a very good point, because at the beginning, Johannes said that DesignOps is important because you need to be able to scale design. But I really love that Farid brings in a completely different view. And you know what? It's not about scaling design. It's about scaling, operationalizing your own work individually. And I have a friend that I teach together with, and he often says that any practice that you start, don't try to implement it, in work settings. First, try to do it in your own life, because if you can't use it yourself in your own life, then how could you be selling it as a service that you do? If you're, this is in your life is the best way to sort of get started with something, get familiar with it, see how it works, do the early iterations. It's like a soft launch for your own practice as a product or service.
Yeah.
So, Shashank, any additions to that before we remove you from stage and get ready for starting for real?
Oh, so there's just one more thing. Could you describe, as I am totally beginner in this field, so could you say something, discuss about something, ProductOps and ResearchOps also? So
Sure.
like if I'm totally beginner, like I don't know what their fields and what the particular, what can say, the deliverabilities of particular field, what they basically do in their
Yeah.
real life.
And that will be the talk from Farid, beginning in 3 minutes. So that is what the talk is all about, and you'll hear about it in a few minutes. So with that, thank you for your question and participation in this soft launch of the talk. And I will remove you from the stage for now. And you'll of course remain in the session and be able to watch and ask questions as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Let's see if removing works. Perfect. So that was a good little startup. If people are joining, just letting you know, we started soft to have some chit chats going on. We'll introduce Farid in a second, just preparing. And I see that already there's 90 people. So those who are here already, I'm mentioning that you can post questions that you will have in the Q&A section, and then we'll look at them at the end of the talk. This talk will be 30 minutes long. And what else do we have? So just sent a quick announcement as well. So
it
xOps
was sent already.
Very good. xOps, DesignOps, ProductOps, ResearchOps is beginning. We also have the Unicat of Johannes joining our session. Very good. And okay, I got some messages here. So I'll start with a quick intro. So this is 24 Hours of UX. Welcome. This is a nonstop full-day conference where we address everything around user experience design. The way it is organized is that every session, which means either a full hour or 30 minutes like we have now, is brought to you by a different grassroots group from somewhere in the world. So it's not a central committee defining, who the speakers are. It is people in various cities and countries that are proposing their speakers and their topics, and we are giving them a global stage because we believe that local knowledge needs to be shared, and that it's not all about globalized content in the world, but we need to have and keep a local aspect to UX, and we'll have a number of things around that later today. You can interact with us by typing in questions in the Q&A, and there's of course also the chat. We are in hour number 3 now, and there'll be plenty more, so you'll be able to go back to the schedule after the session and choose some other things as well. And at the very bottom of the page, you see a CC button, which means closed captions. You can actually add subtitles to the talk if you want. That should work on your side. We've seen in some cases it doesn't work. Maybe you can, in that case, try to switch the browser. And with that, So Johannes and myself are representing 24 hours of UX, but much more important than us is Farid Sabitov, who is coming to us from the local group xOps today. And Farid, without further ado, I will hand it over to you to sort of explain where you're from and what you'll be talking about.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for inviting me. So right now, just a quick intro about like the community itself. xOps today is in very early stage, so we are just starting. So that's why my goal for today's session is to inspire you with all the things that you could implement from operations perspective into your organization. And also another thing, give you some of the resources and materials that will help you to evolve your career. Johannes, do we want to start right now or should I continue?
We can start right now. The stage is all yours, and I think let's get started. We have
Great.
150 people in the session, so stage is all yours, Farid.
Thank you. So I will share my screen and hopefully you will be able to see that. Okay, let's start. So today I wanted to speak about ops in particular. Like we have DesignOps, maybe some of you heard about ProductOps, there's a large community about ResearchOps. So today I just wanted to speak about one thing, about operations itself. And just quick introduction about myself. I'm Farid Sabitov. I'm working at EPAM. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm posting there a lot of interesting things about upcoming meetups or about some interesting resources that could help you evolve your design ops or any ops career. So quick couple thoughts about the xOps today. We started the community because we saw the opportunity that there is a rising demand in operations, not from specific discipline like DesignOps, but from everywhere. Like we all know that DevOps is already started like long time ago, and I will speak about that in a couple of minutes. So that's why we wanted to create a community called xOps today that connects DesignOps, ProductOps, DevOps in one place. So xOps is a community-driven platform with organized knowledge base, with handpicked resources helping operation discipline to evolve and advance. We have our own website where we are collecting all the different interesting materials that could help, again, to evolve your DesignOps or ProductOps career. So what is the plan for today? The plan for today is to speak quickly about why do we need DesignOps or why do we need to focus at ops at all. The second part is the evolution of ops, just to understand in like historical way who was the first one and how it evolved, how we started to think about DesignOps and other things as well. The third part, I wanted to speak about the differences and what we can learn from each other as DesignOps, ProductOps, ResearchOps, or DevOps, or any other ops. The next thing I wanted to go through and help you to start your career in your organization itself. So I will go through the things that will help you to speed up your career growth in ops discipline. The last part is learning from others, where I will share a couple interesting resources that could help you to, again, to start learning more about the operations. So let's start. So the first thing that I want to speak about is why we need operations. I think we all know specific organizational challenges that we are facing when there is a designer and then the company grows, and based on the demand, we need to hire more designers. The team is growing, we have core design team, but sometimes when we see more demand and there's a lot of more products are coming into the play, we need to again hire more and more designers to make sure that we are able to cover all the demand inside our organization and have designers attached to each product or each initiative. But in some cases, we see some situations, for example, and I think you all know that if we will not focus on the people and we will just focus on the product, sometimes we might face some challenges, like some teams might not perform well, or they are not happy, or there is a high retention, high attrition risk, and people might leave. So from operations perspective, it's important for us to, first of all, analyze and see where are the gaps, where are the possible risks that we need to think about in advance, and analyze our current team health and see these things in advance. So also speaking about the way how we will be able to share all the knowledge between all our designers. So if any teams will leave us, for example, we will still be able to share the knowledge and others could support other product demand as well. So most important challenge, one of the most important challenges in operations is the knowledge sharing. And when design team grows, we see that if there is no competency center or center of excellence, there is no knowledge sharing between designers. We might have some interesting, really advanced designers like with really unique skills, but because we don't have knowledge sharing process inside our organization, all this knowledge could be lost. So one of the opportunities here from operations perspective to set up such knowledge pipelines and also engage designers to share, create new communities, create new events inside our organization, designer organization, to make sure that we have such knowledge sharing. But in some cases, we see that we need also engage other designers and educate them about specific new things. So we need to focus on the trainings and to make sure that we have designers who are sharing the knowledge and educating others, doing mentoring groups, coaching groups, and etc. to make sure that our design organization, design team grows from skills perspective as well. So what I wanted to say through the whole this diagram. So as you can see, when design team grows, there is a demand for a specific person who will able to focus only on people and only on the way how people are interacting with each other. We are speaking about knowledge sharing. We are speaking about design growth. We are speaking about some challenging things like if we would like to create user research database shared across the whole company, or some specific team would like to create a design system in our organization. So this is the way how DesignOps or any operations could help designers or any other people, any other disciplines to make their life easier. So the main thing when we are speaking about the operations is answering the question how people are interacting with each other. So when we are going through the main focus areas of operations, on the left side, as you can see here, I put the team is focused on the people, and on the right side, I put the focus on the product itself. When we are speaking about focus on the people and the product, there are a couple levels: strategic, tactical, and individual. So if we will think about DesignOps, here I just wanted to share with you a couple focus areas that might inspire you and think about, okay, we have such gap in our organization. Let me lead this process and let me, for example, do that within our organization to show the results from operations perspective, if you would like to do that. So here are some of the main focus areas. On the strategic level, we are speaking about design culture, market recognition, knowledge base, design system, research databases, communications, portfolio management, and governance model. So I hope when you will see some of these focus areas, you might understand that, okay, we have some gaps in these specific things. So that's the thing that could inspire you to focus on in the future. So, but the last question, like why ops is important right now, why large organizations are hiring more and more design ops, product ops, research ops, etc. Because the world is changing and just making the right things is not enough. Speed and quality is the competitive advantage. So that's why large organizations are trying to focus on operations as well, hiring people, and also from one of the previous sessions in our Design Summit conference organized by Brunswick Media, we spoke about the good ratio of designers to DesignOps. So if you have 18 designers, more than 80 designers, for example, you need to have one DesignOps. So I'm speaking today more on focus of DesignOps, so but you will able to understand that it's almost the same for the global, like the whole approach is almost the same for other ops as well. So let's go through the evolution of ops and understand the history of how operations evolved and which ops do we have right now. So when I went through the LinkedIn, I was really inspired by this picture from chiefmartech.com, where they shared this view, this graph, how a lot of different ops are coming right now into play on the market. We have DevOps, we have marketing ops, we have business ops, we have revenue ops, and etc. So that gives us an understanding of the complexity and the focus areas and like things that we could focus on from operations perspective. So going back to the main thing that we wanted to share is understand the ops evolution in time. I specified the main quadrants here, the business, design, and technology. And based on the Google Trends, I will show you what happened first and why it happened. So we all started with the sales ops in early 20s. That happened because the sales team saw the opportunity that just by calling people and speaking with the clients is not efficient. We need to create some interesting CRM systems that could help us to speed up the things. So as you can see here, some specific discipline like sales started doing the work. They standardized the way they see it, and they started to see some interesting opportunities how they could evolve the sales team itself. So that's why we see sales ops that is coming into the market in early 20s. Then we are seeing the demand in marketing and development. So that's why DevOps started in 2008, as I remember. And within the time, we see that the demand in different operations is just like growing because everyone understands that just by doing the right things is not enough. We need to focus on operations and bring some interesting practices, some advanced practices that could help us to evolve even faster within our organization. So another thing that I want to share, so we have DesignOps, ProductOps, ResearchOps. So what are the main things to consider when we are speaking about them? So first question that all people are asking, so what is more important, like ProductOps, ResearchOps, or DesignOps? What should I start with? So it all based the evolution of operations discipline in your organization is based on your organization maturity. So you can start as DesignOps and start focusing on design teams and finding some interesting patterns and finding some interesting insights and practices that could help your design teams to work more efficient, to bring new practices that could help them to, for example, adapt to new market changes, for example, doing remote user research and or any other things as well. So another thing that I want to share when we are speaking about ProductOps, DesignOps, and DevOps is what we can learn from each other. We had a couple sessions where our xOps today, where we gathered DesignOps, DevOps, and ProductOps in one place, and we spoke about the things that we can learn from each other. And one of the interesting thoughts that we had is that when we are speaking about the ProductOps, they are the ones that are helping us to bring metrics and KPIs into our organization and into other operations as well. So before that, like, for example, speaking about myself, in DesignOps, we were just doing some interesting practices, but we didn't calculate the value. So ProductOps helped us to be inspired and go deeper into that section and start thinking about the metrics and KPIs that we can learn from ProductOps. The same thing applies for DesignOps. It's about design thinking. That's our core. That's our core skill, core knowledge. So that's why when we are trying to apply design thinking into our operations, it's about not to push changes to the people without testing. Let's do some interviews. Let's understand what are the current challenges, what are the current pain points, what designers are not happy about. Let's create a couple concepts, let's create some couple practices and test them with specific teams, not without pushing them to do that. When we test them with small teams, we are able to gather feedback and then scale that. So by applying design thinking approach into operations, it's easier to do like this change management where we are testing first and then scaling to the whole organization. And if we are speaking about DevOps, some of the things that we can learn from them is automations and integrations. Right now, I'm a fan of like some interesting advanced techniques and like Figma, Coda.io, and other interesting tools that could help us to automate some of the routine work in design, creating plugins, creating some interesting integrations, and etc. That's the way how we could learn from DevOps, and that's their core. That's one of their superpowers. So the final thought here is that what we can learn from each other, speaking about ProductOps, DesignOps, and DevOps, is design thinking, metrics and KPIs, and automations and integrations. There are much more, but I want to highlight the main ones. And speaking about the common challenges, when we are speaking about not only DesignOps, but operations itself, here are one of the main questions are happening is about like change management, how we will be able to motivate people to change. This is a huge topic because when we are creating, for example, like one of the easiest things to discuss is like is design systems in DesignOps, right? Everyone knows about that, so I will take that as an example. But it's not the only one focus area for DesignOps. It's much more than the design systems. Is the common challenge that we see is like how to motivate people to change, how to start adopting the design system into their product work, and etc. So this is an interesting challenge, and the way how you will be able to solve them is by doing trainings, by doing workshops, by educating people and showing the value of specific practices that you would like to introduce to the organization. Another question, how we can help each other as operations. And I've shared that before, that like by working together as DesignOps, DevOps, and ProductOps, we are able to capture some interesting highlights about our organization itself, about our current culture, about our current values, about our current organizational OKRs, and etc., that we could help and map them all together and help as DesignOps or DevOps to ProductOps to help our organization to evolve even faster. What are the main focus areas of operations? There's a lot. And the easy question is, the easy answer to that is that, again, by answering the way how specific discipline is working, how designers are working, and how they are collaborating with other disciplines like product managers or, for example, tech team, and etc. So if we are speaking about the focus areas there, just think about the way how designers are working, and that's the whole focus areas are there. Speaking first, starting from discovery session, going to the handoff process for our developers and capturing all the insights and feedback from the production website. So another interesting part here, because DesignOps is a new thing and everyone is asking like where DesignOps sits inside the organization. So here's a quick diagram that I want to highlight and present it to you, where I'm speaking about only DesignOps and how it aligns within the organization. So we have, for example, as an example, we have VP of design, and then we have small units like with the own design director here and here, for example. And inside our pool of designers, inside our specific unit, there might be some sub-streams or sub-teams with the lead designers inside and etc. that are focusing on the product. So how DesignOps could help us here and how it sits inside the organization is, if you will go to the like in the community, DesignOps is reporting to design directors because that's the easiest way to share the changes inside our practices. So if there are some interesting things that you would like to share to specific teams, by working closely with design director, you will able to map all these practices to specific goals that will help your specific unit OKR to achieve their goals as well. So the last thing that I want to share is how to start operations in your organization. So the approach here for DevOps, ResearchOps, ProductOps, DesignOps is almost the same. So that's why I called it xOps approach, because we are thinking about only operations. So it starts with success phase, where we are trying to understand the current specific team and the maturity level in specific focus area for this specific team. When we are doing workshops and understanding what are the gaps, what are the pain points that specific team have, for example. After that, we are able to create a roadmap of all the practices that we will need to bring into specific teams. Then the next phase is optimize, where we are doing some experiments and analyzing current teams. And for example, if we are speaking about adding new practices, version control, version control in Figma. So by assessing that with specific team and then testing that with specific team to gather the feedback, that's the optimize phase that is presented here. When we tested specific practice, we captured all the feedback. The next part is scale, how we could scale that to the whole organization. And here are the most important things is to create onboarding materials, create some trainings to make sure that when we are implementing such new practice, all designers know how to use that, know what is the value. It's not only for newcomers as onboarding material, but it's also for the people who are already working inside the organization. So, and the last part is automate. So as you can see here from the approach perspective, we have 4 main phases: assess, optimize, scale, and automate. For all these phases, we are focusing on the way how people are working. By capturing all the feedback and capturing all the insights, we are able to create much more specific practice for specific team that could help them, again, much more applicable for specific setup, team compositions, and etc. So the easiest way how to start thinking about operations in your organization is to think about the OKRs if you have them in your organization. If you have them in your organization, there is a high chance that you will be able to see some points like we need to have we need to create, like we need to update our hiring experience for designers, for example, and make it more efficient by instead of spending 3 months, for example, for hiring a specific person, we would like to shorten it into 3 weeks, for example. And that's your opportunity to game into to join as ops specialist, like as DesignOps or any other ops, and start helping your organization to achieve their goals for focusing on operations. So starting the easiest way how you will be able to start operations in your organization is starting by company OKRs, where you will able to map all your initiatives that you would like to introduce to the specific objectives to specific key results. That's one of the easiest ways. And at the same time, you need to make sure that you are sharing the importance and the value of operations on the market. So by doing some trainings or by doing some internal events in your organization, you will be able to engage others and also find the team, find people who are interested in a specific topic and start creating DesignOps or ProductOps or ResearchOps discipline in your organization. So the last part that I want to share is, okay, we understood the challenges that DesignOps or any ops could solve. We understood what we can learn and why it's important to collaborate with other operations in your organization, like DevOps or ResearchOps or ProductOps. We understood what are the core things and what are the main focus areas, and most importantly, the approach and what are the easiest ways to start like doing operations in your organization. So, and the last thing that I want to share with you is learning from others, like some of the resources that might help you to learn more about these specific things. In our xOps Today community, I gathered all the list of all the communities that are available there from ProductOps, DesignOps, and ResearchOps perspective. We will add more communities here. So if you have anything to share, please add your community here as well, like that is focusing only on operations, because that's the way how we would like to connect and help the operations community to evolve by connecting not only specific articles or practices, but also connecting communities. Another thing that I want to share are the collections. Inside the collections, you will be able to find interesting resources that, again, if you would like to change the toolset in your design team, if you will just click on tools, you will be able to see a lot of interesting collections, resources that already specified the list of all the tools, design tools, for example, and visualize the scoring for each of them with some interesting practices, how you could adapt them. So that's, again, if you have anything to share, please share. We would like to share that within the community, so we will be able to help our, again, the ops discipline to evolve much faster. And the last part is knowledge base, where we are just collecting all the interesting articles or video materials about specific things, about system thinking, about change management, about org structure, about team composition, about specific practices like design impact enablers, design accelerators, and etc. So if you would like to learn more about the operations, please go to xOps.today, and if you would like to share some of your resources as well, please do that. That's the way how we will be able to connect all the knowledge and help our operations to evolve. So, and our values is that Design xOps today is open community with open knowledge and open opportunities. It's not connected to any specific brand and any specific community. It's community-driven platform. People are able to vote on the things that they think are valuable, so you can contribute. And if you think that, speaking about team composition, you have more interesting practice that we already have, please share that and let's discuss that. So that's all that I wanted to speak about today. I hope I was able to inspire you to think about the operations in your organization, and also gave you some practical tips on how you will be able to start all of that in your organization. If you will have any questions, please ask them. Yeah, and thank you for having me today.
Well, Farid, our pleasure. Thank you very much. And we have a couple of questions. Returning one is, will you be sharing your slides? So if you can make them available, I'm guessing you can make them available on xOps today and upload them there. But also feel free to share a link with us, and we'll share that together with the video of your recording.
Okay. Yeah, will do.
And so let's look at some questions. What would be the top traits for someone in DesignOps? So what are the characteristics that someone in DesignOps should have?
Oh, that's really interesting question. We had another event on Friends of Figma, DesignOps chapter, where we created a skill matrix for DesignOps. Again, my goal is help operations like worldwide to evolve. So that's why I'm trying to connect all these resources, all the communities, and we are creating another interesting initiative right now, open source skill matrix for DesignOps. And there with Dave Malouf, Christian Skinner, Patricia Bertini, and Z, we collected all the core skills for DesignOps. So the core one is system thinking. This person needs to be able to find some like patterns in chaos of information, to organize all the things and find some consistent patterns there. The second one is about communications. Is again, because you will need to engage with different levels, with design directors, with design managers, and with designers itself, you will need to present your own practices to them, and so that's why communication skills are important. And the next thing is about the change management. You need to know how you will be able to engage people to change, because that's the most important thing. And that's why organizations ask for help, like from operations perspective. Like they would like to change the way how they work. They would like to change their practices, their tools, and maybe team compositions as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that. It is great that you're mentioning that, because today at 4 p.m. CEST, so Central European Time, we have actually a talk about systems thinking from Dr. Arash Golnam. So if you're interested in what systems thinking is and what systemic design can do, then go there and be prepared for hearing some things that might make you uncomfortable. And the other thing is Patricia Bertini. So we actually have had as 24 Hours of UX, we have I'm just going to pin it on the chat. We have a podcast called 24 Minutes of UX. And one of the first episodes was DesignOps. And in the 24 Minutes of UX, you always have a seeker of advice and a giver of advice. And Patricia was the giver of advice for that specific session. So if you're interested in a bit more and listening to it, then feel free to go in there and check it out. It is at the top on the chat tab now on the right. So we answered the traits. Let's look at some other questions maybe. And before we go there, of course, Farid, I wanted to thank you very much for your presentation. And to those who are interested in another talk, there is another talk coming up right now starting, if you go back to the schedule from UX Kitchen Nairobi, about running a design team as a shared resource. So, somewhat related to this because it is about operationalizing and fitting design into the organization. So that is starting right now. But of course, you can stick around for the Q&A if you're more interested in talking a bit more about DesignOps with Farid and myself. And then in 30 minutes, we will have the keynote with Steph Couchon about design sprints and sort of what's been going on with them in the past year and how that has evolved. And with that intermission, now back to our questions and the topics on DesignOps. Someone asked, what is a successful framework for efficiently creating OKRs or creating efficient OKRs?
Yeah, that's another huge topic. We will not be able to cover that, but there are a lot of resources about OKRs, and that's the main idea is to connect all our initiatives and map them to specific goals, and also understand how specific initiatives are helping us to achieve specific goals, specific objectives.
Perfect. We have two very interesting questions. One of them says, where do you see ResearchOps fitting into the Venn diagram where we had DesignOps, DevOps, and ProductOps, and they were wondering why ResearchOps is left out?
It's not left out, and that's one of the things that I wanted to share is that there's a lot of ops. So, but if your ResearchOps discipline is much more advanced than DesignOps discipline, it could be above DesignOps. I'm not speaking. I don't want to answer like what is most important, like DesignOps or ResearchOps. So that's a huge it's not about that. It's based on your organizational maturity, and if you have specific people that are able to lead specific things like ResearchOps or DesignOps, like it will be ResearchOps, it's not DesignOps there. But speaking about the way how we will be able to place that, it's not fully in DesignOps, it's in the middle of DesignOps and ProductOps.
Perfect, thank you. Then another question. What do you see among product touch points that are possible candidates for automation? So, how can the organization introduce those points of automation in design and propagate them in the organization? The question actually goes, how will organizations propagate changes to DesignOps across teams and organizations? But I would even sort of challenge the question and say, is it the organization or is it the design team or even individuals within the design team who should be starting this? So is it more, do you see DesignOps being more a top-down or a bottom-up thing? And in addition, what are the good things to start automations with?
There's no, it could be done in both ways, from top-down and from bottom-up. If we're speaking about top-down, the situation is that design director, for example, sees the opportunities to change the tool set or change the practices that we have or evolve some of the things that we could do inside the organization. So in that case, the DesignOps is hired from the market and we can start focusing on DesignOps inside the organization. Another part is that if it goes from bottom to top, it's not bad as well. I mean, both options are good. But in that case, as I mentioned before, if you would like to start your DesignOps career in your organization, just try to think about the way how people are working. What are the main issues there? The easiest one is to start with hiring experience and onboarding experience. And if you will start thinking about the way how we are onboarding people, what kind of materials they need to know, and etc. You can just start doing that on your free time. And then when you will have some interesting results, you could share that to your design director and ask for more time just to focus on this part only on DesignOps. So yeah, it could be done in both ways. It's not like there's no right or wrong way here.
Very good. We have another question. Do you have any tips for setting up ops in a small team? Often in small teams, ops is badly needed, but they find themselves overstretched. lack the dedicated time and resource to do so. And I actually had a backup question myself is on when do you know that you need design ops, or when do you know that you need to operationalize design?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things, couple of signals that are representing that we need to think about operations inside. The first one, as we spoke in our DesignOps Summit 2020, organized by Rosenfield Media, the good ratio of having DesignOps is if we have more than 18 designers, 18, 20 designers, there should be one DesignOps that could focus only on the way how people are working. The second signal when you should start thinking about DesignOps, it's about the question to design directors, speaking about the attrition rate. If a lot of people are leaving the company and we are not focusing on our design culture, we are not focusing on the way how knowledge could be shared, how we could analyze these things in advance, and like by analyzing the team health, we could like that's the things, that's some of like early signals that are saying like we need to focus on design ops. And for small teams, it's a hard question. I totally agree that if we are building a design team from scratch, it's much easier to implement some practices from the beginning rather than changing like 12 teams in our side organization to do things differently a little bit. So I don't have, like, would be great if you were able to hire in-house design ops consultant or manager. But if you don't, there are a lot of practices you can learn by yourself, or just like, I think maybe you could hire design ops consultant that could help your small design team to set up the right practices from the beginning. But again, it all takes time. It's not simple. Yeah.
I would add on to that is so for example in agile development teams often have dedicated time to deal with Slack, and Slack I don't mean the messaging software, but with things that need sorting out but we're never getting around to.
Mm-hmm.
So how about creating a project that is about operationalizing and making design activities more efficient? Once you have that in the system, it becomes easier to actually allocate time to it. And if you you yourself can't sort of make this decision, then maybe talk with some other teams within the company and see how they are handling these overheads. Maybe you can have someone who's doing similar organization within the company, and even if you're not doing it, maybe have them help out with some early steps. And I would actually say that yes, it's not easy, but it is easy to get started. So maybe just start writing post-its and putting it next to your wall, next to your desk on the wall, on what are the things that I'm doing again and again. And you'll hopefully have a backlog built out of it. And then when you see that, okay, let's pick one of them and operationalize it.
Yeah, Peter, I totally agree with you. Also, I wanted to share a couple of things. So when we have such backlog of all the things that we could focus on, like from operations perspective, in Agile there is like stabilization sprints where designers and developers could focus on depth. So that's like, when we're speaking about the team level, we could spend some time there, and speaking with our program manager or project manager, we could like allocate some time there. Another thing, if we're speaking of like focusing on operations on organizational level, I would like, as an example, I would like to share Ship-It hackathons from Atlassian. They are doing every year or every quarter, they are doing just 1 week hackathon, internal hackathon, like, across the whole organization, where they are just thinking about the way how they are working and how they could improve the way how they are designing things, developing things, and researching things. So yeah, so 2 things. On the team level, spend some time on stabilization sprints, and on the organizational level, you can create internal hackathons like Ship-It from Atlassian. It's publicly available. You can learn about it more.
Very good. So thank you. And we had another question from your experience and observation. How often does design ops and design leads job overlap, and which type of responsibility? And this is from Bayu. So Bayu, I'm also advising you to look at in the chat I'll pin it to the top again, or podcast episode on DesignOps, because there we talk specifically about this as well, or there as well we talk about it, because indeed there can be overlaps. And with that, Farid, over to you. What are those?
Yeah, there are overlaps. But here we just need to understand that when we are speaking about DesignOps and collaborating with design directors, they don't have enough time to focus on all the things. So the most importantly for them is to focus on the product. So that's why some of the things like how we would able to improve hiring experience, how we would able to improve our design processes, and etc., that could be given to specific person like designers who will focus only on these things. And also we understand that design leaders, like design directors, that's one of the main goals as well, to make sure that the design team is growing and everyone is happy, etc. They could focus on these things, but again, they don't have some more time to test practices that they would like to introduce. So for example, if we would like to introduce a new recognition system, this project itself takes a lot of time. And if design directors will focus on that the whole time, they will not be able to focus on the product itself. So that's why you just need to speak about like responsibilities, initiatives, and just like put the balance there.
Yeah. The way that I would sum it up is that it's really connected to how other things work in our organization. People have responsibilities, and there is one at the very top of their responsibilities. And for a design lead, that very top thing might be, the healthy team or a good product or whatever they are assigned to. But for the design ops person, it will be the efficiency of how the teams work. So I would actually say that that's sort of one of the differences. And I love, pointing out similarities, but I also think it's important to highlight, okay, where does the similarity end and when does the other thing begin? And I'd say that this is it, is like when push comes to shove, when it really depends on, okay, what do I dedicate my time to? Mm-hmm. Then the design leader, when they don't have enough time, they will focus on their main responsibility, which might be the product or their team or their employees' growth or their juniors' growth. Mm-hmm. Whereas a design ops person will focus on, okay, how do I operationalize this? And of course, they need to be working together.
Yeah.
So we had this, and the last question, do you think that the UX lead should take care of the design ops in a small team? So 5-people team?
For sure.
Okay.
But the question happens when like design lead is not able to allocate more time because we have only 8 hours per day. So yeah, in that cases, when the design team will grow, you will find the opportunity to have this dedicated role for doing just only that.
Mm-hmm. What I'd also recommend is in small teams, every team has regular get-togethers, or if they don't, they should. And what you could do is you could do a design ops month. So maybe if you have meetings every week with your team, then for a month, you dedicate every one of those meetings to specifically design ops and operationalizing, and not just doing, ideation, but maybe starting with ideation the first session, and then in the other ones, really hands-on working sessions on setting some things up. So that way you can double up by, teamwork being actual teamwork in terms of how you can work better together. Because, chances are that you can't fit just another responsibility into the responsibilities of the UX lead. So with that, thank you very much, Farid, for the talk. On xOps.today, you will be able to find the presentation in some time. And on our YouTube channel, you can just go to 24hoursofux.com, and there you'll find our YouTube channel. It's also at the top of the chat right now. So youtube.com/24 hours of UX. And in a couple of days or weeks, we'll be posting the videos there as well. So do stick around because there's a lot of other talks happening. So in 15 minutes, we have our first keynote happening around design sprints with Steph Cruchon, who is the creator of the official design sprint Miro and mural boards. So don't miss that. And that will be quite interactive with questions as well. And see you in other sessions. And Farid, thank you very much again.
Thank you too, Peter, for organizing all of that. Thank you. Johannes,
right.
Thank you as well.
Thank you.
So everyone, this is just gives enough time to grab a coffee or take care of some other business, and hopefully see you in 15 minutes on.
Or go to the Miro board and leave us a message. Also a message to Farid or just the organizers.
Exactly. So if you go, if you leave the session and you go to the reception, you'll be able to find the link to the Miro board there. And with that, thank you very much. Talk later, everyone.